We've got a new premium smartphone to check out today. I'm talking about the Nothing Phone 3. This phone does a lot to try and stand out from the pack, so could it be the right choice for you? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our Nothing Phone 3 review. It's been a couple of years since Nothing's last headliner, and they're pushing things into a more premium territory with the Nothing Phone 3. This means a higher price as well. The Nothing Phone 3 is positioned as the flagship of the Nothing lineup, with a price of around $800 for the base storage tier. So what are you getting for the higher price? There have been plenty of changes, including a new chipset and display, a telephoto zoom, a larger battery, and better ingress protection. Another change is that Nothing has switched from having LED lights on the backside, something they called glyph lighting, to having a little monochrome LED display called the glyph matrix. Besides the LED screen, the spread-out camera placement adds another element to the busy backside of the Nothing Phone 3. The back is protected by Gorilla Glass Victus, and it meets the aluminum frame at a sharp edge. Nothing is known for these sort of see-through designs, and they've made things even more complex this time around by adding vertical lines and more doodads into the mix. This includes a recording indicator, an LED that will flash red while you're recording video. The design is something of a love it or hate it affair, but regardless of which side you stand on, it's a real attention grabber. It's not all about aesthetics though. Another hardware feature is the Essential Key, which allows you to take annotated screenshots. We'll get more into it in a bit. Nothing has increased the ingress protection this time around. While the previous model was rated at IP54 against dust and water splashes, the Nothing Phone 3 is IP68 against water submersion. The display of the phone is slightly smaller than the previous models, at 6.67 inches, but it also has a higher resolution. There's a 120Hz refresh rate and Gorilla Glass 7 eye protection. The screen is plenty sharp, with a pixel density of 460 ppi, and the bezels are a bit slimmer this year as well. There's support for 10-bit color depth and HDR10 Plus video playback. The brightness here is also impressive. We measured over 750 nits maximum with the manual slider, and this was able to boost to over 1500 nits in auto mode, great for use on a sunny day. For some reason though, Nothing has gone without the LTPO tech on the display this time around. While the previous model's 120Hz refresh rate could dial down all the way to 1Hz to save energy, the Nothing Phone 3 won't go lower than 60Hz. But just like before, there's no support for high frame rate gaming here either. For audio, there's a pair of stereo speakers. They have very good loudness, and the sound quality is good, with some bass and decent sounding vocals. You can listen for yourself with a comparison tool linked below. For biometrics, the Nothing Phone 3 has an optical under-display fingerprint reader. It's fast and reliable. And the phone comes with either 256 or 512 gigs of storage on board. That's not expandable through microSD. The interface here is the company's own Nothing OS version 3.5, running on top of Android 15. It brings a few Nothing-specific features and custom aesthetics. These aesthetics include Nothing's characteristic dot matrix font and love for black and red, which you'll find sprinkled throughout the interface. There's even a dedicated monochrome mode, which turns everything gray. Even media will play back in grayscale. Nothing UI also packs plenty of custom widgets, covering essentials like clocks, calendars, contacts, and weather. And of course, they all maintain that uniform look. There are some AI-based features here too. Besides Google's Gemini, here you have the option to use ChatGPT as your virtual AI assistant instead. And Wallpaper Studio allows you to generate a new wallpaper just by inputting a prompt to the AI. Let's go back to the Essential Key I mentioned earlier. Clicking this button allows you to take an annotated screenshot, and holding the button down lets you record a voice memo along with it. Double-clicking it opens the place the notes are stored, called the Essential Space. It's AI-powered and can make summarizations of your text or voice notes for easy reference later. Now let's talk more about the Nothing Phone 3's glyph matrix. It's not just for display. You can interact with it through a capacitive touch button on the back of the phone. This recognizes single and long presses, and it allows you to cycle through different glyphs or even play simple games. Of course, you get an in-depth menu and settings to control the glyph matrix with. You can assign it images, animations, and messages, and even have it light up with customized ID for incoming calls or notifications. Nothing promises up to 5 major Android updates to the Nothing Phone 3. The chipset of the Nothing Phone 3 is a new one, a Snapdragon 8S Gen 4 from Qualcomm. It's not as powerful as the current flagship chipset, the Snapdragon 8 Elite, but it still packs a punch. In benchmarks, the Nothing Phone 3 holds its own against other high-performance phones, and its scores are in about the same ballpark as last year's flagships. Overall, it's a pretty big upgrade from what we saw with the Nothing Phone 2, which is already a couple of years old already. The Nothing Phone 3 has a larger battery than its predecessor. It's 5150 mAh compared to 4700. In our battery life tests, the phone earned an overall active use score of 12 hours and 56 minutes. That's not amazing, but pretty solid. The charging has also been upgraded from 45 watts to 65. There's no charger included in the box though. It actually isn't much of an upgrade. The charging speeds were just the same as the previous model. We managed to go from 0 to 63% in half an hour, and a full charge took an hour. And like last year, there's support for wireless charging and reverse wireless charging here. And now we have the cameras. This time around, Nothing has added a dedicated telephoto zoom to the mix, and is able to focus close for even more versatility. So overall, there's a main cam, that 3x zoom camera, and a fixed focus ultrawide cam. The selfie cam is 50 megapixels too, again with fixed focus. In good lighting, the main camera captures solid photos with good detail and nice, natural-looking colors. The detail rendition is good, with not much overprocessing. However, we have seen sharper renditions of fine details. The main camera does a good job when it comes to portraits. Skin tones and facial features look great, and subject detection and separation are excellent too. You also get great low-light photos out of this camera. The phone uses night mode automatically, and the shots come out with good detail and plenty of added sharpening. There's very little noise, and colors look great. The dynamic range is also quite wide. Moving on to the telephoto camera. It does a solid job during the day. The photos are not exactly class-leading when it comes to sharpness, but the dynamic range and colors look great. And the telephoto cam can shoot some pretty great macro shots too, as it's capable of close focusing. In the dark, 3x zoom photos are quite soft, and the exposure is a little on the dark side. We much prefer the low-light zoom shots by the Nothing Phone 3a Pro. The ultrawide sounded quite promising on paper with its 50 megapixel resolution, but even in daylight there isn't much fine detail. It seems to be smoothed over by the processing. The dynamic range isn't perfect either. At least the colors look nice and natural. In low light, the ultrawide camera does a decent job. The detail is good for this sort of camera, and so are colors and dynamic range. There is a bit of softness, but the detail is not as artificial looking as in the daylight shots. And now we have selfies, and the quality is excellent. Facial features and skin tones come through great. While we would have loved to see autofocus, the focal plane is wide and quite forgiving. The Nothing Phone 3 can record videos in 4K with all of its cameras. The quality of 4K videos from the main camera is excellent. Detail is great, and so are colors and dynamic range. The telephoto camera's 4K videos are just a bit softer, but they're still quite decent. The ultrawide is also soft in its 4K video capture, and there's some visible noise here and there. Still, the quality is pretty good for this sort of camera. The Nothing Phone 3 has gyro-based electronic stabilization, and it's always on. It does its job pretty well. And low-light videos from the main camera are consistently solid, with plenty of detail and just a hint of noise. So there you have it, the Nothing Phone 3. Nothing has made some nice upgrades here with IP68 ingress protection, a new high-end chipset, and a close-focusing telephoto cam. However, this phone isn't quite what you call a true flagship. The price might suggest otherwise though, and for the same money you can get a flagship from Samsung or Google with all of their bells and whistles. However, those choices wouldn't have the signature Nothing features and aesthetic, so if these things speak to you, the Nothing Phone 3 could be worth considering. Thanks for watching guys. Here are reviews of some alternatives on our channel, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus and the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.